Hi everyone. Hopefully this is working and just give me a confirmation as soon as you are able to hear me and just give me a quick confirmation in the chat with few yeses and then we can get started. Perfect. Hi Saurabh, how are you?
Ankush, I'm good. How are things?
All good, man, all good. So, hi everyone. This is I have Mr. Saurabh Nangia with me. He's a dear friend and an entrepreneur who has a long history in working in machine learning, data science. So, I just wanted all of you to interact with him and understand what it actually takes to be a data scientist in the current industry. He actually happens to be an employer as well who hires a lot of data scientists. So, I think he will be able to give us perspective from both the sides where he'll tell us like what his journey was as a data scientist and as well as what is he looking in potential hires when he's looking for data scientists when he's looking to hire, right? So perfect. So just to give all of you a quick background on Saurabh. So Saurabh did his BTech in computer science from IIT Guwahati. That was in 2008, post which he did his master's in computer science, specializing in machine learning at UIUC, right? So that's something that he did right after his undergrad. Following which he joined Amazon, where he was working on the personalization engine at Amazon, personalization team. So he spent 3 years in Amazon Seattle. And post that, Saurabh has worked upon three different startups. The first one got acquired by Snapdeal. He was working at Snapdeal as head of engineering. And post that, there are a couple of other startups that Saurabh has done. So that's a brief about Saurabh. I've tried to keep it short. Thanks a lot, Saurabh, for coming in. And we'll start taking questions from people as we see more and more people.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Ankush, for that warm introduction. Really appreciate the kind words. For the people watching this, feel free to ask me anything you want to know about machine learning or startups or data scientists, anything which you want to know about your career. Happy to answer questions on that to the best of my ability. And rest, we have Ankush with us, who will probably be poking and asking a whole lot of things that might potentially help you out.
Perfect. So, before we pick up questions from the students, I have a few questions myself. Would love to,
Sure.
for you to answer that. So, first of all, I think like one thing that like in today's world, right? Like everybody feels that they want to become a data scientist or like machine learning, data science, right? But to be honest, I think not a lot of students actually understand what data science is, right? So, I think like the first question that I would like to ask you is, what exactly is this profile of data scientist? What is a data scientist supposed to be?
Got it. I completely agree with you that right now, one of the most popular profiles out there is of a data scientist or a machine learning engineer. The key thing about data science is that the two words which lie in that particular sentence itself. The first part is data. So it's actually interpreting, understanding data. And the scientist piece is that you are applying some science on top of it, which in other forms people call machine learning. You're making a machine learn things out of it in order to extract and make intelligent information out of it. So that might sound very vague in terms of what it is. So what happens in real life, what do you do, and what are the things around it? As you understand in computer science that whenever as a software engineer you're working, you will be handling with a whole lot of inputs to generate certain outputs. The moment the amount of inputs which are coming in go beyond a certain point, you can't process all of it, keep it in main memory, manage all of it in one go. So it becomes very important that you can generate models, you can figure out how to take out the essence of this huge amount of data and give a small conclusion out of it. That is the work of a data scientist in short. I think I lost your voice out there.
Yeah. So one thing that so a lot of students are already asking this. Would also like to wanted to ask you myself. Would love to understand like if you can give your own example, right? Like as part of your journey as a data scientist,
Sure.
like that you did. So what like if you can take like specific example, the problem that we try to solve.
Sounds
Uh,
good. So I'll give my example starting from the start of my career. So I'll talk about 2008. So that's the time when I graduated out of IIT. Very few people in those days knew what AI is, what machine learning is. And people used to associate AI with robotics. Everyone thought that, oh, you're working in an AI, you'll make some robot who will do something fancy out there, who will do some weird thing, and things will happen. Um, but somehow I got interested in the mathematics and the computer science of things, which is why I chose the machine learning field and wanted to explore it more. And did my master's in machine learning, which I won't say is a necessary requirement for anyone to become a data scientist. But it does definitely help if you have done some courses, be it on some online platform or be it with even coding ninjas, or even if you're doing it through some course in order to learn the basics behind it. So when you start your career as a data scientist, for me, what happened was once I graduated out of UIUC, I joined Amazon's personalization team. Personalization, as you understand, is basically interpreting and understanding what are people doing on Amazon's website and app, what are people clicking on, adding to cart, rating, reviewing, buying, and then using all of this data, we used to figure out what products do we need to show to these individuals that they're most likely to buy. So Amazon owns a bunch of different companies. So IMDb, Endless, Zappos, Shopbop, these are some of the subsidiaries owned by Amazon. So early on in my career, I got to build the recommendations for IMDb from scratch. That was the first project in the real world out there where I was handling huge amounts of data and trying to interpret and make intelligent solutions out of that particular piece. So to one of the things which I would want to highlight at this stage is when I started my career, there was a big difference between what data scientist meant, what machine learning engineer meant. So coming from a, grad school at that point, we were more of data scientists in the true sense. Like we just like the maths behind it. We wanted to run algorithms that would probably take maybe even 6 hours or 8 hours to run and give us the information, but it will be highly accurate depending on whatever error function we are trying to minimize. But in real world, things like these don't help. You want to build a solution which runs in real time and is super low latency and is able to give a high throughput, as in crunch in a lot of data in order to give the output fairly quickly. So sometimes the super optimal solution, which might be there theoretically, is not necessarily the one which you will deploy in production on a real system. So in the first 6 months of my career, that was probably the biggest learning which I got in my life, that sometimes you have to get out of the maths and stop over optimizing a problem and figure out that the solution which you are building, how do you solve it across all the parameters which you have? How do you ensure that it happens in super low latency? I can't show you movie recommendations 5 minutes after the website has loaded. It needs to come in right at that very moment. So it needs to happen within nanoseconds. Less than 100 milliseconds is the latency which we used to target. So having low latency, having high throughput. I was doing it for a website which basically used to have the top, which was amongst the top 10 highest traffic websites in the world. So there were a whole lot of requests which were coming in. If I'm taking a lot of time and a lot of resources in order to crunch the recommendations for one individual, then that system will not work. So that was the second thing, the high throughput. And the third piece was basically ensuring that you're giving in the right solution. You have to recommend the right results. Obviously, if you're giving quick results and you're able to handle traffic, but you're giving the same recommendations to everyone, then you have failed the problem. It doesn't solve the problem. So it took me some time to understand that, okay, in industry, understanding only the mathematics and knowing only the algorithm is not everything. You need to understand how will you scale it, how will you be able to do it in real time, and what is the right way to do it. So those were the three pieces of the puzzle, which I think every data scientist, the moment he gets out of college, will experience and will want to learn.
Okay, okay, okay. That makes a lot of sense. So, sort of just would like to get a quick answer from you on, like, so you mentioned, right, like that as a machine learning engineer, you are supposed to understand, like, that things have to be fast, that if it is going live on the website, then it has to quickly respond as well, right? So, how important it is for a data scientist to understand basics of web or like basics of building websites, like how to manage server, like how important is that?
Got it. So here I'll slightly diverge from the question and I'll explain there are two different roles in industry right now. The first one, which I was explaining, which I did in fact at Amazon, was more of a machine learning engineer, where you're trying to build something which will go live on an app or a website. The other piece is where where the data scientists are being hired in order to do offline crunching for certain insights. These could be things around if I want to do demand forecasting, let's say for Amazon. I want to figure out what's the likelihood in terms of the number of orders I'm going to get. It's not necessary that that result needs to be computed in a millisecond at that point, because that's meant for the operations team and the other teams on the back end. So there can be certain delays in certain situations. Similarly, if I want to just bucket a customer query which is coming in and I want to figure out to which provider do I need to send to, whether it's an order related one or whether it's something else, if it's a broken product or whatever it might be, then that need not be real time. While if I'm building a chatbot for the same solution, that's need to be a real time. So there is these two separate pieces which are involved in terms of all the machine learning and the data science space that people talk about. Me personally, I prefer to use a machine learning engineer lingo for the people who know the engineering side of things as well, who can build the systems, who understand the nuances of cutting down latency, scaling systems, and data scientists as the people who understand the algorithms, can optimize the algorithms, and give more accurate results, even though they might not be doing it for a real-time web service or things like that. So there are these two different roles where I usually hire people in. So to give you an example, I'd hire a data scientist to maybe figure out, count the number of reps in an exercise. Let's say if someone is working out in a gym and the camera has been put ahead of it. So the data scientist will try to do a bit of video processing in order to figure out how many reps of a particular exercise an individual has done. Now I can't take the system and make it go live that very time. So the machine learning engineer will work along with the data scientist in order to figure out I'll be able to scale these aspects of it. And he understands enough fundamentals even around all the different algorithms that he'll tell him, okay, that maximum I can do is for this particular thing. But in terms of optimizing it and cleaning a whole lot of smaller nuances, the data scientist will be spending more effort on it. So both of them can work hand in hand as well. So there are slightly different roles in terms of data scientists and machine learning engineers. That said, coming back to the original question, sorry, I've taken too much time on this one. How important is it to know the fundamentals around web development or systems in order to become a data scientist? I think it is very important for everyone to understand the fundamentals about computer science, whether you are a data scientist or a machine learning engineer. But if you are a machine learning engineer, you need to understand systems as well, as in how to scale systems, cut down latencies. If you are a data scientist, you need to know computer science fundamentals. You need not know things about web services. You need not understand request response and things like that.
Okay. Okay. Thanks a lot for that. So now picking up few questions from the chat that we are getting. So definitely we'll not be able to pick up everything, but let's quickly pick up a few of the questions. So one question that we are getting is generally, is there any way that a fresher can get a data scientist job? Or what should a fresher think like do to basically get a job like?
There's no disadvantage that freshers have right now in order to get a role as a data scientist. That's the first point which I would want to mention. A lot of people that I've hired who are right out of college also sometimes perform better than the people who have done worked in the industry for 2 years. So don't think you are at a disadvantage if you are a fresher. That said, what can you do within college in order to improve your skill set? There are a lot of different platforms which allow you to get access to data, to crunch it, to figure out results. So Kaggle is one of them which I recommend highly to most of the people who have time on their hands. Thanks to the COVID situation right now, a lot of you will have free time. Start attacking the problems on Kaggle. Start solving problems which are out there. You need to have worked on problems in order to get a role like a data scientist or a machine learning engineer. You'll not get that role only based on theory or only reading question and answers in some place. You'll actually need to get your hands dirty. You need to know Python. You need to know uh, Java also works, but Python actually helps you speed up things. You need to learn programming as well and be able to code it up and figure out and build these solutions yourself. And where to get these problem sets from? Go to Kaggle, you'll get a bunch of them out there. I'll just put a disclaimer. I'm not endorsed by Kaggle or by Coding Ninjas or by any of the other companies. These are just some of the platforms which I have personally used or referred to people in the past.
Sure. Perfect. Perfect. So now Harshit is asking, how can we start from scratch? Like, so can you just tell me, like, I have, and maybe let's start from scratch where the person doesn't even know programming, right? So there are like a
Okay.
bunch of people asking, do I need to learn programming before I learn data science, right? Like, so just coming from that perspective, like, assuming I don't know programming, what will be the journey for me?
Got it. You can call me a bit old school on this piece. So I believe that stronger fundamentals will help you understand things better in future. Um, so assuming you understand basic mathematics, the very first piece that you need to do after that is understand the fundamentals about computer science. Like understanding what are data structures, knowing how to create functions, knowing how programs run, how to compile it, how to debug things. That's a very, very first step which you need to understand. Because at the end of the day, machine learning is just a small subset. It's just a small toolkit in a way, and you are writing computer programs at the end of the day. It's not that you can just do things by mathematics or on a whiteboard. So you need to understand basic fundamentals around programming. That said, you need not become a professional at it. You need not rank in the top 10 or in the top ranks in terms of in the coding competitions. You need to understand basic fundamentals. And after that, I would recommend doing a simple intro to machine learning courses. There are a lot of platforms. Again, I would say Coding Ninjas is definitely one of them. I have, in fact, hired a few students from them. They did understand the fundamentals around ML as well as computer science. And on the other side, even other platforms online, there are a bunch of them. You can do Coursera. You can even see the courses that MIT and Stanford actually puts out quite often in terms of the machine learning courses. Do a basic introduction course, which will give you an idea about the fundamentals. So whenever I'm hiring an individual, I don't hire people who use things as a black box. So when you're trying to learn things, what will happen is that you'll see, okay, there's this code which is kept somewhere. You'll copy it. You'll try to run it, and voila, you'll see results. Okay, things are working phenomenally well. There was a trend, in fact, on LinkedIn where people were basically making videos and writing digits and showing that the result, it's able to identify what digit it is. So they would do something like this, and it will say that, okay, it's 3 written out there, or they'll do like this, it's 6. So at the end of the day, that was basically a sample code which was kept somewhere, and a lot of people just started copy pasting it and running it. Now, the moment you start, then the very first fundamental around it, that when you are processing a video or where you're processing the image, what is the first step you would do? They won't understand what do they need to do. If you give them different scenarios around it, what if the background is moving? Will your thing still work? They don't know the answer about it. So whatever you do, you need to understand why you're doing that step. So get that curiosity in yourself and first try to learn computer science and then do an introduction to machine learning. But the key thing is, while you're doing this, remain curious and keep on trying things hands on, like run these code yourself and remain curious. What does this part of the puzzle do? What happens if I change this particular aspect, and what happens in this particular scenario? What happens if I write with both the hands? Will it pick both the numbers? What happens if I change my background? Try to change the problem in different ways, and that will get your brain to think, and you'll want to solve that problem. That is what happens in real world out there.
Yep, yep. And actually, that actually brings me to a very interesting trend, right? Like what I've seen a lot of students do is like they'll have like 6 projects as part of their resume, and I think instead of quantity, if they work on quality, that will be far more valuable. If they like
Yes.
just do one project and like spend like 6 months on that, maybe, right? Like you understand the basics in 1 month, then you basically see how I can extend it this further. Then how do I like whatever, as you suggested, like move the background, write with 2 hands, like how can you do all these things, so that basically for every small change it will require a lot of thinking and a lot of changes in the code as well, right? So yeah, so it makes a lot of sense. So so seems like everybody is in a lot of hurry, so they want to understand that I am in final year and I want to graduate and I want a job in data science. Am I too late? How much time do you think on an average I would require? And so for the steps purpose, I am assuming you said that first learn data structures, algorithms, basics of programming, then learn basics of machine learning, then do a lot of practice and work on multiple projects. I hope I got the timeline
Yes.
right. So that's what you suggested, right? So now, in terms of how much time would an average student take in this? Any thoughts on that?
Um, I would say it can take anywhere. If you are very sharp, it can take you a month. If you are taking your things slowly and not being able to dedicate enough time, it might take you maybe even 8, 9 months, three months across each of the three steps. That said, because thankfully you can see us being in a situation where most of us are in a lockdown, and I'm sure all the people watching the stream also right now will be mainly in lockdown. Um, so you're getting pretty much a month where you have 24 hours where you can practice whatever you want to do. And if you like even focus maybe five hours every day, 5 hours in the morning, 5 hours in the evening, 10 hours you put in into this, you will be able to pick up a whole lot of things within this month itself and get yourself a job in data scientist. That's what I personally believe. If there's dedication, you can do it within a month itself. It's not a problem.
Sure. I think you are just keeping yourself as the benchmark, to be honest.
Uh,
I would expect most like anybody to take less than 6 months on this, and that comes with it. Maybe that comes with an experience of teaching a lot of students, and I know like
Yeah, definitely. I would defer that question mainly to Ankush. He has taught people more hands on, and the people that I get have already gone through the 6 month grind with Ankush. So he understands the nuances slightly better. I get them at a much later, riper stage when they understand a whole lot of situations.
so. One thing that generally people are worried about, right, is that what is this current situation going to do with jobs, right? So in general, everybody feels that there is going to be a recession, there'll be lesser jobs. Now, will the impact be different on data science jobs compared to web development jobs? Like a majority of the people end up joining and like doing web development sort of work, right? So, like, will the impact be different on data science, or do we expect a similar impact?
I think the impact will be there in the overall market. There's no denial in that. It's going to impact pretty much everything. The only silver lining which you can see is that people will come up with new solutions and more effective ways to work from home and to start performing better. So there might be more intelligent solutions as such which are built there. So there might be a rise of a whole lot of new work from home softwares or work from home companies which might come up right now. And
Mhm.
because these will all be in the software domain and they'll want to do something intelligently so that people can focus and work more even when they're working alone. So maybe the total number of jobs in data scientists stays the same, but it's still a speculation. It's slightly early to tell at this point.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So there is one question that I would like to take, right? So there is one student who's asking that if they want to do a data science course at Coding Ninjas, do they need to know machine learning beforehand? So just answering that quickly, the data science course actually contains all the machine learning course as well. So data science course, machine learning course is a subset of the data science course. So the prerequisite is not that you know machine learning, but the prerequisite is that you know basics of programming. So that's something that we would expect from you. So another question I'm answering very quickly is so Raghav, you please don't try to pick and choose what you want to learn. Don't think of that I'll learn two data structures and that'll be enough. When you're learning, it makes sense to learn it thoroughly, right? Like, so don't think of whether trees are important. So basically the question is what all data structures I should learn and do I need to learn all of them? So generally any course on data structure, right? Or any program on data structure will have like 10, 15 data structures. And I think it makes sense once you're doing it. Just do it well, learn it well. And as all of you might know already, a lot of companies while hiring will always interview you on data structures as well, right? So when you're going to go through that drill anyways, so it might make sense for you to go through that really, really. Okay. Uh, Perfect. Perfect. So then there are a bunch of questions, and I'm guessing it doesn't really matter, right? Like whether somebody is from computer science background or double E, mechanical. I mean, like, so
Um,
bunch of questions. Do I need to do anything differently? I am in mechanical.
No, I don't think it matters that you are from which background in terms of engineering. As long as you're able to give time and learn the fundamentals about computer science, that will help you whatever domain you are in. To tell you honestly, a lot of principal engineers, lead engineers that I have hired in my 10-year career have been not from computer science. They have not done computer science engineering in college. But right out of college, because they had the zeal, they had the enthusiasm in order to learn and pick up things, they tried things and they learned it. And now they are phenomenal data scientists as well as machine learning engineers.
Okay. So, Saurabh, I think now we understand what do we need to do to learn these skills, right? But the final aim of learning these skills is to get a job as a
Yes.
data. So, two things that I want to understand there, right? Like, so, how do a student end up getting these interviews? First of all, second, what do they need to do to clear these interviews? Like what are the kind of questions that these people ask? What are the different kind of interviews that different companies will have? If you can take some examples of different companies, that will be great as well.
Sure. Uh, so I'll break that question into multiple parts. Like, what do people need to do in order to get these interviews? What do they need to learn? What happens in these interviews? I'll take both of them separately. In order to get these interviews, the best resources, if you can actually start proving and displaying your research in certain things. Giving this example of that LinkedIn trend, which had started where people were writing numbers, they just wanted other recruiters to potentially notice them that, okay, they have done something. To be honest, I myself have interviewed at least 5 out of those 50 people who had those videos on within my feed. And my feed isn't pretty all the people, it's very limited set of people at the end of the day. And after interviewing them, I realized that they don't understand a whole lot of fundamentals, but they caught my eye. I knew that, okay, these guys have tried something, they have gone out of their way, they have done something. Let me talk to them and see if they are good recruits. The other places, there are a whole lot of different job portals which are there where they're allowing you to connect with recruiters like us. So we keep on hiring within our company. There is always a position out here. If you need to basically join us, I'll leave my email ID at the bottom of this particular YouTube link as well. It's basically jobs@thepeoplemesh.com. And if you're looking for a position, we are happy to talk with you and take the discussion forward. And similarly, all companies are looking for people at the end of the day. Even though there is COVID at this point, we are still hiring people. People are cutting jobs, but we personally are in the market to hire smart engineers. There'll always be jobs for good machine learning and data scientist engineers at this point. And the second question was basically, how do I prepare for these interviews and how do bigger corporates actually do it? If I talk about in terms of the corporates, I mainly worked at Amazon and Snapdeal after the acquisition, and then I can talk about the startups where I have been a part of. The interview style that we do within our company is also quite structured based on the fact how Amazon did it. So there will be 4 or 5 rounds depending on at what level of experience you are at. Talking about fresh college graduates, there'll usually be around 4 different rounds. The very first round is around computer science fundamentals. That's around data structures, algorithms. If you are able to understand when to use a hash map, when to use an array, uh, maybe tree, as you were saying. So understanding what data structure to use, when to use it, and it will check on your problem solving skills, what people call usually algorithms. It's not that we are looking for some fancy algorithm that you want to use and you just cite the name, oh, I'll use XYZ algorithm. That doesn't matter. The name of the algorithm doesn't matter. It is just understanding the application and how do you solve the problem which is there. So that's the very first interview round which we have. The second interview round kind of builds on the first interview round which was there. So usually the first interviewer will give a yellow signal if there is anything. A yellow signal basically means that I didn't get a chance to make him write code. Can you make him write some code? Or when he was writing code, the code wasn't clean. So do remember, when you're writing code in college, you tend to use any variable names. You can use ABC, you can create any sort of functions, and you'll basically scratch a whole lot, do a whole lot of things up and down. But when you're writing in an interview, it's try to think things through. It's not the fastest one to write code will get the job. It is the one who thinks things through, who asks the right questions, and who is able to get the right answer at the end is the one who will basically move forward to the next round. So that is very important. A lot of people, when they're writing code, they'll use terrible names and they'll not do a dry run themselves. So after you have written the code, take one example and just walk through that particular case. Then take another example and talk with your interviewer. That's very important. Tell him that, okay, I'm just running through this example. It's fine. I'll do a dry run with these values. This is running fine. I think I'm done now. It's the final thing. So talk it out. Don't, if you're getting stuck at any point, tell what you're thinking. Don't just get logged in that. So these are some basic interview tips which I can share. Anyways, coming back to the second interview is mainly again building on algorithms and further into the coding piece. Not around a whole lot of fundamentals around data structure, but whether you can create a class and what will be the things on that particular side. And the third interview will be, in our case, where we want to see how fast you can learn. Because if you're joining a startup like us, or even if you're trying to join Amazon, we want to see how you think. So we might give you a slightly wider problem. Like I could possibly ask you, how will you design, let's say, an auctioning platform like eBay? Or I can ask you, how would you design maybe Amazon recommendations for that matter? Or how would you basically go ahead and design maybe a communication piece? So it could be any slightly wide problem. It's thrown at you to see that, okay, if you don't know the answer to something, how do you break down that particular problem? Internally, we call it basically how well do you deal with ambiguous problems. That's the key thing which we want to see, whether you're able to break it down into smaller pieces. And then we'll get into maybe system design of things or the machine learning side of things. Like if I've asked you to design recommendations engine, first I want to see what you are going to take as input. A lot of people get stuck that they don't even know that, okay, if I'm designing recommendations for Amazon, I can possibly take like 6-7 different inputs. What are people clicking on? What are they adding to cart? What are they rating, reviewing? One is the behavior data which is there. Then I can take into account where is he browsing from. There are a whole lot of parameters in terms of where he has launched the website from, whether it's a OS or what particular machine it is, what kind of a network it is. Then there is insights about that particular customer itself. Based on his email ID, you can try to figure out whether he's male, female, things like that. So there are a whole lot of nuances which go into each of these problems. Try to break it down when you're trying to answer these questions. But the third round is basically more of an ambiguous problem, and the last one is basically a machine learning problem where we'll try to poke you into a whole lot of different optimizations and try to figure out how things happen. So third one also touches on MLPs, but to be honest, we don't do all the 4 rounds on machine learning itself because we are not hiring purely for a hardcore data scientist role. Our roles are a mix of a machine learning engineer who is able to develop the real system as well.
So just zooming in a little more on the first part of this question. So like there are a bunch of people who are asking about, hey, do I need to do an internship to get these calls? What do I need to do, right? So generally I tell people that we would, like, as a recruiter, we'll be looking at something to basically get us excited and like talk to you, right? So
Yeah.
what are those different things, right? Like so maybe an internship, like what all will you be looking at?
So definitely internship helps. There's no denial in that. The more real world scenarios you can project forward, even if you just are amongst the top winners in Kaggle, they always keep on getting emails from recruiters to come and join. If you are a contributor in any open source platform, you will always get an email. If you are just basically, you can go to any open source platform which is out there. There are a bunch of different ones and you're just contributing something to it. You will create a name for yourself and people will start noticing you. And even if you want others to capture an eye, the key thing is you have to widen your network at the end of the day. The more people who know about you, they will be able to connect you with people within their network further. So for example, if you have worked with, if you have done a course with Coding Ninjas, you will be able to tap into the network that possibly Coding Ninjas team actually already has. They already have partnered with a whole lot of different startups and corporates where they can help you get connected and get you the interview for the internship. Or if you have been working with some other Coursera course online, there will be a different chat room out there where you can ask for people, does anyone know who's recruiting in this? The more people you get connected to, the bigger is your funnel and the higher are your chances to get a job. The same thing goes if you're well connected on LinkedIn and you're posting on things across different places, people will take notice of you. Write blog posts, solve problems, and start putting the results out there. You need to do things so that people notice you.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So, yeah, so there are a bunch of people who are asking, is there any specific book that you would recommend, or you generally recommend them to do online courses?
I would recommend doing an online course will be a lot faster because then you are sitting on your laptop, you have a higher tendency to go ahead and execute these things. A lot of times people think, oh, I've read this book, I've read that book. And at the end of the day, it is important to have run those examples yourself, tried different variations of it, and that would help more. Um, I can share a list of different books in terms of AI and machine learning. I'll in fact share it with Ankush and he can put it in the comments in the YouTube section itself. Or you can drop me an email and happy to share. There's a list of different books in different verticals, which I share with the people who join my team. They are in machine learning, NLP, computer vision, whatever different piece of AI you are more interested in, because it's not only one small field, it goes across a complete spectrum. And you need not know about everything in every spectrum. Just pick one small thing and get into the depth of it. If you are an excellent computer vision guy, great, you'll get hired. If you are a great NLP engineer, you'll get hired. NLP stands for natural language processing, so you are able to extract what people are saying through normal free flow text. If you understand recommendations very well, people will hire you. So take one problem, get into all the nuances of it, keep on solving it in different ways, and people will notice and you'll get a job. If you do 10 problems and do it all superficially, the moment they ask you in an interview one more question, you'll get lost there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And do you have any preference on using R or Python as a data scientist?
I prefer Python. There is a slightly different role for data scientists who work on R. They usually help product managers, marketing managers, and all take key decisions about the business. They'll help them figure out what are the right cohorts, what are the right segments to do different aspects. So e-commerce companies and online businesses might ask you that, okay, so for example, a Swiggy can potentially ask a data scientist to tell within this region which are the primary areas where people are most likely to not order from us in future. So for those sorts of queries, people the profile usually are doing it on R instead of Python mostly. Um, I don't know whether in Swiggy that happens or not, but usually in corporates which I've seen, that is what happens. But the moment you have learned Python, it becomes easier for you to go bit on the machine learning engineering side as well and not get limited only in the offline crunching of R.
So Suraj has a question for you. He, along with a lot of students, feel that the general trend is that you need to have a master's in AI or machine learning, or you need to have a PhD to get hired at, let's say, and I think generally, right, like I would also love you to talk about why they should not just think about Amazon, Google as companies that they should go to.
Yeah.
So his specific question is that he's saying, to get hired at Amazon or Google as a data scientist, do I need to do a PhD?
No, you don't need to do a PhD in order to hire at Amazon. I have also hired engineers at Amazon when I was there who were not PhDs and they were working on machine learning problems. There are a whole lot of problems out there, and this is a bit of a myth that you need to have a PhD. Both Ankush and I are kind of live examples out in front of you. So, as you know, Ankush himself had gone to Stanford and he had the opportunity to continue for a PhD as well. But after masters, he went ahead and joined industry at Facebook, and it was the same story at UIUC for me, University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, that I could have gone ahead with a PhD, but I also chose to go ahead and work at Amazon. And Ankush can also vouch for this. Even at Facebook, I can bet that he has hired people who are not necessarily PhD in machine learning. And within my team, all the stellar machine learning engineers that I have hired, I think barely 10% would have had a master's or a PhD. 90% are mainly BTech engineers. So it's not necessary to do a master's or a PhD. And Amazon and Google has also hired a whole lot of engineers, which I have hired because Ankush and I both have been working in the industry for 10 years. So a lot of engineers that we have hired in the past have jumped across and joined other industries. So a lot of my team guys have joined Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Apple for that matter. Some have even moved to the Bay Area and they were working in the Gurgaon team. So it's not a limitation as such that you need to have a master's or a PhD. You need to know your stuff well. You need to understand why you're doing what you're doing. So understand whatever problem you're working on, why what particular piece is happening. That is the key. Degrees don't matter beyond a point.
Perfect. So just talking about the same point that I just mentioned, would as a last question, right? I know you have another meeting, so
Yeah.
let's just have last question, and then I'll continue taking questions from students, but you can drop off. So as a last question, right? So a lot of people want to understand what kind of companies are hiring data scientists. Like you have this Amazon, Google, then like what are these startups who are hiring? So just like can give you a brief around. So for example, we at Coding Ninjas, we haven't hired a data scientist yet, right? So just want to understand for like a lot of people want to understand.
I would say more than 50% of the software companies out there will be hiring a data scientist or a machine learning scientist within the next 1 year itself. So I don't think there will be any dearth of job in terms of a data scientist or a machine learning engineer. In fact, the highest growth in terms of salary year across year has been in the data scientist and in the machine learning engineer. You guys can read the reports, or if you need the link, I can even cite it in the comment section below. And what type of companies are doing it? All bigger corporates do it. Talk about Amazon, Facebook, Google, Microsoft. They do it. Talk about the late stage Indian startups. They do it. Zomato, Swiggy, Flipkart, Ola. They have big teams who are focusing on machine learning and are doing a whole lot of things around it. Within Snapdeal itself, like I was managing 4 different teams who were doing different aspects of machine learning. People are working even on image processing within e-commerce companies. They're trying to figure out what color this particular apparel is, the different attributes about it. They're doing NLP on it as well. They are doing recommendation problems. They're doing ads problems. So there are a lot of different verticals even in the e-commerce industry that we talk about out there. And startups are also definitely hiring. The biggest boom right now after COVID, you will see in edutech companies. So educational content which is getting streamed online, and even courses and platforms like Coding Ninjas might also start hiring data scientists in the next 1 year, because a whole lot of people will start doing these courses online and start coming back to the platform. So they will be needing a solution to start recommending which course do you need to do next, start building adaptive test for them, that okay, if you are taking a test in any of these courses, the next question which comes should be based on how you answered the previous question. It should get harder as you move further, so that everyone gets a test which is based on his or her ability. So there are problems in education which will get exposed in the next 1 year. I think this industry is going to boom post COVID. And the other industry which I have been laying stress on, which will boom, is the work from home industry, the remote working. So the platforms like remote working will be coming up. So in fact, the company that I'm working in, the company that I'm building right now, it's called Mesh. And even in Mesh itself, we are basically building an internal social network for companies that makes it easy for employees to share feedback, manage their tasks, and give rewards. So employees will come just like you write on Facebook and Twitter. They can write, had a great time discussing about the future of data scientist with Ankush. I can tag something like that. So it will figure out automatically from that statement what particular experience I'm having. So it will figure out that, okay, there's something which I did on learning and development because I'm saying I had a great experience with regards to this. Then it will try to figure out what particular goal am I talking about. So it will try to extract these attributes from NLP itself. So that's a machine learning problem that startups like us will be coming up in the next year itself. And the same trend will be there even across a bunch of other startups who I know are trying to do different aspects and work from home. Um, so I don't see this industry going down anytime soon, and so has been the data. If you see, which has been published in US in terms of the jobs which have seen the highest increase in terms of salary and number of jobs in US in the last 1 year. It's going to be the same thing in India at this point.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Saurabh, just if you have any piece of advice for all the students, that'll be great. And then
Sure.
basically, yeah.
Yeah. Before signing off, the only thing I lay stress on, whatever you are doing, try to understand the things behind it. So one thing which I've learned is that buzzwords don't help. So even when I was trying to describe things on this call, I tried to break down things instead of using fancy buzzwords, trying to use algorithms to intimidate you, or trying to use any mathematical formula or anything like that. So it's important you understand small things and understand why it works like that. Like even if it's an algorithm, just for the sake of explaining something, if even if it's a simple algorithm like regression, understanding what types of regression are there. When will you use a linear regression versus a logistic regression? Which will help in what particular scenario? So smaller things like that will help you go a lot further in your career, irrespective of whatever vertical you are in, whatever job you end up doing. And in this tough times of COVID, don't feel disheartened that there not be jobs for you. The market will get impacted. I agree. There might not be any face-to-face interviews, but there will be companies which will keep on hiring. And while you're locked down at your home, this is the right time to start building that skill set. Start attacking problems, start understanding the nuances in terms of why and what you're doing. That's the only piece of advice I'll leave you
Okay.
guys with.
Thank you so much, Saurabh. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank
And
you. Thanks a lot, Ankush. I'll take my leave. See you.
thank you so much. So, hi everyone. Would love to continue answering your questions. So, Saurabh had another meeting in some time, so he had to leave. Right. So, yeah. So, let me quickly pick up few questions, and let me quickly answer those. Right. So Vishal is asking, is it better to be in ML or be in DevOps? So Vishal, I'll say that try to be in, like as Saurabh said, right? Like knowing the basics of web is something great and will really help if you are in ML or data science as well. So similarly, right? Like, so DevOps, I would say if you get really good in web, DevOps is all about how to do horizontal scaling, vertical scaling, how to like set up systems so that they work at scale, right? You need to do all of those. But I think that problem basically comes once you already know how to build stuff, right? So first focus on building stuff. And once you are good at that, then you can move on to this point, right? So Anuj is asking, will Coding Ninjas have career camp for data science? Anuj, we will definitely have that. I can't give you a timeline. I think we might take some more time before we launch a data science career camp, but we will definitely have that in some time, right? So Vedant is asking, I've done data foundation plus data structures course from Java foundation course from Coding Ninjas. What should I do next? Vedant, doing the data science course will be the perfect way to basically get started in data science. As Saurabh said, right, I'll keep repeating, like I can't agree more with him on the fact that you need to practice a lot, right? As part of the course, you will be doing multiple projects, but along with that, try to work on more projects post that. And rather than working on quantity of projects, try to work on quality of projects. If you pick up one, just keep doing that and focus a lot on that, right? So Amit is saying, I'm from commerce background. How do I start with data science? Amit, you are really, so one thing that you need to realize is, irrespective of your background, right? Like if you're from commerce background, you're doing really well in CA, I can kind of guess that your math is decently good, right? So honestly, a lot of people who are doing BTechs, sadly, they might not know a lot as well. They might not know a lot about programming as well. So if you can basically build that up, it doesn't really matter much. You just need to, as again Saurabh said, you need to figure out ways to showcase yourself. Either get like really good rating on Kaggle, either build really smart projects, right? Like, or for example, if you do something through Coding Ninjas, we will connect you with the companies as well. So basically, you need to get there. You need to put yourself out there to do this, right? So Nishant is asking, is 1.5-year internship worth it? Nishant, I'm not sure. I'll need to know more details before I can answer that. I would need to know like what is this internship about, like how exactly will you do that, right? So we need a little more. Shubham, you don't need to know a lot of mathematics for machine learning data science. The kind of mathematics that you need is basically you need to know, understand what probability is, right? How probability works. You need to understand how differentiation integration works, right? So, for example, in our course, we just assume that you know basics of these two things. If anything else is required, we actually try to cover that up as part of the course, right? So we'll try to do that. Okay, so this is a question that I answer in almost all my webinars. We'll pick that up, right? So one is, so Ishit is asking what do you suggest after doing data structures, web dev, data science, or competitive, right? So the way I tell everybody is, pick the one that you really enjoy or you feel that you will be really excited about. Do you think you will be more excited about building projects which are a little more theoretical, which are a little research based? That'll be data science, right? So like, for example, if you feel like I want to build something, I want to launch it, I want people to use it, then web development will be that. If you want to get into a mode where like you want to just like do better and better at algorithms, you want to have that ranking system where you're getting better at something, right? Then competitive might be better. If you ask my suggestion, I would say you keep doing competitive, you spend a couple of hours on competitive every day, but more than that, work on development skills, work on WebD, Android, or data science. I think that's going to be more valuable because once you join a company, you will not be doing competitive. You might be doing data science, you might be doing web dev, you might be doing Android, but you will not be doing competitive, right? So once you join a company, that's what you're going to be doing. So guys, so for example, right? So if somebody does a course with us, right? They work on like good number of projects. Now, then I keep telling people, like I tell people that you pick up projects from Kaggle and you work on that. That's the next thing that you need to do, right? That's the next thing that you need to do. So Sambhav is asking, is competitive programming enough for a good placement? Sambhav, that's depends upon what do you mean by good placement. If you want a job as a data scientist, very likely that will not be enough. You would be required to have some background in data science, machine learning. When I say background, I mean some kind of certificate, some kind of learning that you have done, right? Like, and some kind of project, some kind of internship. You need to show that you have interest in this field, you've done something here. So that's going to be very important. And for all of you, right, who is asking, hey, I'm in first year, I'm in second year, I'm in third year, I'm in fourth year, how to become a good data scientist? The answer is same. You start with foundation in programming, you get really good in that. Then you start with machine learning data science, you get really good in that. Then you work on projects and you work on quality projects rather than quantity projects. That's what you need to do, irrespective of where you are, right? So that's what you need to do. So Chirag, and a lot of people who are asking how important is data structures. Honestly, right, like as we have been discussing, data structures is extremely important because once you go through that, your programming foundation is strong. Generally, you'll not struggle with a lot of things around programming as a data scientist. You would want to be struggling with, hey, what is the right algorithm? How do I get the right data? You don't want to be struggling with, hey, how to write this code? What is the best data structure to use? If you know all of that, things will be far easier for you rather than anything else. Guys, I'll pick up 3 more questions, right? And then we'll have to close this. So let me quickly take 3 more. Okay, I'll not count this one. You don't really need to specially learn MS Excel for being a data scientist, but that won't be required. Vinayak is asking, should I do React.js course or full stack course? Vinayak, I would say that if that's in your mind, take the full stack course with React. So there is an option to take a course which will cover HTML, CSS, JavaScript, backend, Node.js, React.js, right? So all of that will be covered. So I would recommend you to pick up that course. Okay. Ritesh is asking, I don't like coding. Can I go for data science? No, Ritesh, that will not be a very good idea because as a data scientist also, you will be supposed to write code. So first of all, you need to answer, is it coding that you don't like? Or is it because you're not good at coding? That is the problem. If you don't like coding, data science might still be okay because you'll not be writing a lot of code. It will be more about thinking. You will have to write a lot of code, but the main work that you will have to do is about thinking and like thinking of algorithms and all of that, right? But if you are not good at coding, that's going to be a big problem because as a data scientist, you will be supposed to write a lot of code. That will definitely be there. Please think from that. So Shashwat is saying, why aren't ML internships available on Coding Ninja's internship portal? Only web development are available. Shashwat, the reality is that web development has far more jobs compared to ML. But the good part is there are a lot more web developers compared to ML engineers as well. So don't use this as an excuse to not like say that I don't know, I can't become a data scientist because there are far less jobs. But you need to realize there are far less good data scientists out there, good machine learning engineers out there. So if you want to become a data scientist, work on good projects, work on your skills, and you will be able to get there. But you might see less number of jobs as ML interns just because there are a lot more jobs in WebD overall. Amit, it's definitely possible for you to get into data science because you have worked in analytics, you understand data to a certain level, you understand the real world a lot better, right? So all of that you can definitely do. Shalini, our competitive coding course actually has a prerequisite that you are good in data structures. It works on advanced algorithms, advanced data structures. So I will not say that if you are a beginner, please do not go for the competitive programming course, go for the foundation course. That'll be far, far better. Dhruv, there is no name for quality projects. The name for quality project is, for example, in project that he just said, right? Like you are writing a digit in front of the camera and your computer is telling you what digit it is. That's a very simple project. A lot of people would have done it. But can you go beyond that? Can you write with both the hands? Can I get like 2 people more and like for all 6 of us start doing something? Will your algorithm work? If the background starts moving, will it still work? Right? So when I say quality, I mean like pick one problem and work on that with different scenarios. Make it hard for you, right? Make it really, really hard for you. Guys, I just answered web development versus machine learning plus versus data science. It's all about what you like, what you want to do. If you don't have a choice, I would suggest everybody first do web development, because if you learn web development, it will help you in data science as well. It will help you in machine learning as well, right? It will help you everywhere. I've taken a lot more than 3 questions. I'll just take the last one and then we'll have to close. And I will try to send out, if you guys have registered on our event section, on Coding Ninja's event section, I will definitely try to share, as Saurabh mentioned, some resources for you guys to prepare as a data scientist, right? For you guys to work upon. Friends analysis is the name of the user. They're asking, is data science same as data analysis? No, it's not. Data analysis generally means that you pick up data, you do some analysis, you make some graphs, and that's about it. Data science means you go beyond that, right? You apply algorithms to do prediction for future as well, not just getting those graphs and trends from the previous data, but also predicting for the future, also making like these algorithms which will help us make better decisions going forward. Amit is asking, okay, guys, it's really hard for me to stop taking questions. Just last one for sure. Amit is asking, only data science career track is enough for beginners? Absolutely, Amit, because the career track starts from foundation. It starts from basics, right? Then it goes on to machine learning, data science, and all of that, right? So it's absolutely perfect place for a beginner to start with. Okay, guys, thank you so much. This was an amazing webinar. I really enjoyed talking to Saurabh as well as to all of you. Thank you so much for coming. And as always, we'll have more webinars. I'll always be available for all of you to answer your questions. We'll get there. Okay. Thank you. Bye.